I know what you're thinking, and no, it's not clickbait. Ladies, I have a question. What is it that you want to achieve in your lifetime? Don't answer that, because the answer is corporate executive at a big company. I know you have all these other dreams, but the answer is what I dictate today. And you work very hard to achieve this goal. You work, you study, you bring in forth all this knowledge into your mind so that you could be in the position of top executive at major company, and you worked hard and you achieved those goals. But there's one problem. You decide one fateful night to do the bump and the grind, or as I call it, the devil's tango, so that you could feel a little bit of relief in your body. But that person you laid down with decided to not use a condom and bust all in your insides to the point where something starts to happen in your body. You start to grow a human in it. And you have a couple options. You could A, abort it. I know people won't like that one. You could 2, have birth and raise that child. Or even in this crazy world, people think that the only 2 options are the ones that matter. But there's a third option. The third option is a little bit wild, and maybe you're a psychopath if you choose to do it. The third option is being a mother that will throw their newborn daughter out of a window, killing the child because you wanted to protect your career as an executive at Porsche. A woman has been jailed for 7.5 years. I would argue it needs to be longer, and I've been the guy who says you take a life unjustly, you deserve your life taken, but that's besides the point. A woman has been jailed for 7.5 years after dropping her newborn daughter out of a window because she was worried a baby would ruin her career. Katarina, can't even pronounce that last name, and might I just say, terrible name, is someone from Laufen am Neckar, Baden, not even gonna try that ever again, was found guilty of manslaughter at the Heilbronn District Court on Wednesday, July 3rd. Judges heard how she had given birth at home in secret 10 months ago on September 12th and then dropped her baby daughter from her apartment window almost 12 feet onto the tarmac below. Horrified passerby found the minutes-old infant's body with shattered skull underneath name I can't pronounce's balcony and called the police. She also claimed she had not realized she was pregnant, which I will dictate as bull, but the prosecution accused her of murder and of deliberately concealing her pregnancy from colleagues and neighbors. Prosecutors told the court that, last name I cannot pronounce, thought being a mother would spoil her career as an executive in Porsche's legal department. Public prosecutor, name I also cannot pronounce, but I will dictate is a great name since you're putting this individual behind bars, said the accused was not prepared to put her life plans, especially her professional advancement, on hold for a child, that her decision when the baby was born, and as a result the criteria for a murder conviction are fulfilled. Name I cannot pronounce's lawyer, which is going to have to go through the task of trying to prove that there's some form of innocence here that wouldn't warrant 7 years in jail, claimed that it was at most manslaughter as she had accidentally dropped the baby from her hands after giving birth alone at home without realizing she had been pregnant. And you know what? Let's tickle the balls on that one for a second. You are a woman, and I'm gonna say this now. I know somebody might be mad at me, but hands up, cards on the table. I have never been pregnant, so I don't know this process. I would argue you start to walk around, you got like this little balloon in your stomach, you know, it's hard for you to walk and do all that bump and grind. You can't really bend over. A lot of things hurt, a lot of things aching. I can understand that. But you mean to tell me you just propped up on your balcony, much like this, and you just relaxing, and you got all this pain going on in you, you just pop one out, you think you just took a shit, but no, you had a baby right there. So you mean to tell me that the baby's just on the floor, maybe, the baby's just on the floor, or maybe on a pillow of some sort, and you pick the baby up, and you think to yourself, oh, I thought I was taking a shit right here on my balcony floor, oh God, my career, I have to think about my career. Whoa, that makes no goddamn sense. Defense attorney Malt Hoyt, which will be the only time I try to pronounce any of these names, said, "It is a drama that affects me personally. My client did not even know she was pregnant." I think it affects you personally because you got money on the line. "When she suddenly held the bloody baby in her hands, she was in an exceptional psychological state. It was an accident. She dropped the baby. How the child ended up over the windshield remains to be determined." In the end, the court accepted the lesser charge of manslaughter, but jailed her for 7.5 years, which was more than the 3 years the defense had demanded. Her legal team said they had to plan to appeal the verdict. Neighbors told local media how they had no idea Lame I can't pronounce was expecting a baby. One said, "Nobody noticed the woman was pregnant. Recently, she had changed and was no longer talking to us. We thought she was stressed at work." And honestly, folks, maybe I just don't know how pregnancy works. Maybe there are individuals out there that go through life and they just for 9 months don't realize that they're getting fatter and things are starting to hurt more and more and they're a little bit slow. Maybe they don't go to the hospital for it at all. Maybe. But something smells funky around that. And I start to confirm my suspicions once I find out that you're throwing babies over balconies and thinking, no form of consequence could come about that. And the only good thing that I could think of, possibly in a fucked up story like this, is that somebody saw this and immediately called the police. And yes, the baby's no longer on this earth, but I lose sympathy for somebody who is in this psychological state when the whole concept is based around her trying to be fearful of her spot in a company. That should be one of the last things you worried about. Now you got to worry about Big Frida trying to figure out why you in jail and you using all your legal jargon to make sure she don't find out, which is besides the point. I just want everybody to know this. If you have a job, whether you work at McDonald's or you are an executive at Amazon, a baby, yes, will halt you for some time. You might lose out on a couple checks, but I would think if you work at a place like Porsche, they would be able to compensate with a little bit of leave pay and making sure that, while you're going through pregnancy, there will be somebody there to fulfill your job until you get back.
Pregnant and working in 2023, there's some new employment laws that apply to you, so let's get into it. So at the end of 2022, President Biden signed 2 new federal laws designed to give pregnant workers more protections at work. The first one is called the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act, and the second one is called the PUMP Act. You can probably figure out what that law is about. The Pregnant Workers Fairness Act requires that employers provide reasonable accommodation to pregnant employees so that they can safely perform their job. Now, these reasonable accommodations are going to have certain requirements, and we don't quite yet know what they are, but we're expecting clarification from the EEOC shortly. The law goes into effect in a few months, and employers, you want to make sure you're up to speed on what exactly you have to do should one of your workers request an accommodation. One thing we do know, you can't take a retaliatory action against a pregnant worker who requests the accommodation. So no demotions, no suspensions, no terminations, things like that. The second law, the PUMP Act, requires that employers provide lactating workers a private space and time so that they can pump. Now, the workers aren't compensated for the time that they're pumping, but again, employers, you can't take retaliatory action if they request the time, and you have to provide both the time and the space. This law is a little different because the worker can't just run to the courthouse or run to the EEOC. If the worker suspects there's a violation, they have to give the employer notice first. The employer will have 10 days to correct that, and if the employer doesn't, the Department of Labor could enforce this law. So employers, these laws are coming into effect in a few months in 2023. Make sure you get up to speed, update your policies, and make sure your managers know how to handle these requests. Thanks, everybody.
Hi, I'm Kimmy. I'm a career coach. Here are 3 ways to navigate a conversation to tell your manager that you're pregnant. Tip number 1, plan time and setting. When you tell your manager that you're pregnant, just schedule a meeting. Create an environment for that conversation. Timing matters. Give your manager a good amount of time to make work adjustments. While it's your personal decision when you tell your manager, make sure you don't wait too late or until it's too obvious. Tip 2, be clear and be positive. Share your excitement. Also share your enthusiasm and excitement for your work and your commitment to your work. Provide essential details about when your due date, your expected time back, or what you might need as a reasonable accommodation. Avoid framing your pregnancy as a burden or apologizing for it. This is a natural part of life, and this should be a good time to be able to share it. Tip number 3, know your rights and your benefits. Be prepared to discuss your specific times off that you will need, your accommodations, and what support you will need from your manager. Familiarize yourself with your company policies and your state laws. Your manager might not know these, so be prepared with any questions that you might have. Be open to communication throughout your pregnancy to ensure a smooth transition and a great working relationship. Have any questions? Leave them in the comments.
Duh! I could have sworn that was a thing that a lot of companies had to put in when women get pregnant, but maybe I'm crazy. Let me know. Mothers or potential mothers or birthing persons, would you drop your baby out of a window thinking, yes, I could save my career like this? Or would you not get pregnant at all because you don't want to do the bump and grind? Or will you do what the Bible says, and this one's for the men, thou shall wrap it before thou tap it. Goodbye, everybody. Subscribe.